The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation-building series, The Law and You. This is program number 883, coming to you on Monday the 6th November 2017. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic, Deeds of Gift. Don't wait. But before getting into the topic, a few preliminary comments first, and as usual, my condolences go out to all families which have suffered recent bereavements. And I would like particularly to send condolences to the Eustace family, the spouse and children of the late Mr. Garnet Eustace, and his siblings, in particular his sibling, the Honorable Annim Eustace, and the whole family. I hadn't heard that Garnet was ill, Peanuts as we called him, and it came as a shock when I heard that he had passed. I hope the good Lord will grant the strength to the entire family to cope with that bereavement. I also hope he would give strength to Mrs. Lorna Marshall, the widow of Mr. Erdman Marshall, who passed away recently, and in fact his funeral service is today as I speak, recording this program after 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon. I believe the funeral service would be well on the way. Mrs. Marshall came to my attention when I think she has retired from the Bank of St. Vincent and Grenadines. But when she sang with the Kingston Evangelical Church Choir about 15 years ago, I happened to have attended one of their recitals and was enamored with the whole Kingston Evangelical Church Choir, so much so that I took my reel-to-reel tape recorder and went and recorded a session with them at Victoria Park, where the church is located. My deepest condolences to you, Lorna, the rest of the family, especially Julie. And I know that as a solid Christian, you would know how to cope with the loss. And wasn't it shocking to hear that dreadful news from the community of Sutherland Springs in Texas yesterday, when a gunman went into the Baptist church and shot members of the congregation, killing 26, including little children, a child as young as 5, right up to an elderly person at the age of 72. If that isn't the work of the devil, I don't know what is. Next, I would like to remind you of the function to be held this Saturday afternoon, 11th November, at the Kingstown Methodist Church Hall at 3:30 p.m. Another presentation of the Arise and Blossom organization. This time they're having a function called Dress for Success, where they will be having an array of local and overseas persons involved in the fashion industry. And once again, the women of the nation are invited to attend. That's Arise and Blossom, Saturday afternoon, 11th November at the Kingston Methodist Church Hall. Excuse me. My final preliminary comment. This is a crucial week in the lives of many of our secondary school students, because this is the week that the vast majority of them have to pay their fees for the subjects they intend to write next year. And I want to make a special appeal to those fathers who have not yet assumed full responsibility financially for their children in secondary schools. Please, if there is one time where your children need your financial assistance, it's this week. Many of them have to find $400 or $500 or $600. And when I say many of them, I really mean their mothers, because they are in school, they are not working, the students. And if you have not been assisting the child financially so far, try and make a special effort this week now. Perhaps your children have asked you for a contribution days ago or weeks ago, and you probably said, well, later on. Well, this week is later on. You never know. That child, your child, whom I'm asking you to assist financially to help pay their subjects this week, may well turn out to be a nation builder. The child may have the potential to achieve greatness in the society or in the region. You never know. Please, please, even if you have to borrow the money, help them. Next week would be too late in most cases. Okay? Thank you, fathers. Okay, deeds of gift don't wait. There's a special reason for the title of that topic. You may not be aware of it, but this year, the fees and the charges related to the administration of estates and to probate have gone up very significantly. In one case, a document that you paid $15 for to register at the courthouse, namely a caveat, has gone from $15 to $200. Now, I do not say this to be critical of the authorities, because it costs a lot of money to run the judicial system. And over the years, the fees for most filings at the registry have been low, ridiculously low in many cases. But I tell you, they have gone up quite considerably. All legal fees have gone up, or charges, I should say, have gone up. Anything you go to file at the registry, the filing fees have gone up considerably. Now, in the 1990s, well, it started in the late 1980s, the then Sir James Mitchell government took a conscious decision to remove death duties as a burden on the backs of the living, consequent upon the death of a family provider. You know, before the era of Sir James, very often when the father died, as in most cases fathers died before mothers, still happens, when the widow, the wife, the deceased father's wife, went to file papers for taking out letters of administration or probate, in those days before Mr. Mitchell's time, the death duties were extremely high, and many a family were brought close to ruin trying to pay death duties. Mr. Mitchell took a conscious decision with his government to remove that burden from the backs of the people. So, for the most part, death duties on property were practically abolished. It was done in stages. First phase, it was removed from the family home and 3 acres of land, if the family home had 3 acres of land surrounding it. And then half of the rest was subsequently removed, and then finally all was removed. So all death duties were abolished. And this was of enormous assistance to families facing the crisis following the death of a significant member of the family. But the revenue loss to the government was extremely significant. And over the years, more and more demands have been made on the government to finance this or that or the other. It costs a lot of money to run a country, particularly an independent country. We just celebrated our 38th year of independence. And over the years, we have realized just how burdensome it is to provide for all the services which a government is expected to provide in the nation. So things have to go up, taxes have to go up. I mean, it's a fact of life. Now, one of the measures which Mr. Mitchell implemented, and forgive me for those who would prefer me to say Sir James, I mean no disrespect if I say Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell himself would prefer people to call him Son Mitchell, but it would be inappropriate to refer to him by that appellation on this program. So I will say Sir James or Mr. Mitchell, and he would not mind, and I hope you don't either. One of the measures which he implemented to ease the burden on persons and to further his central policy aims of creating a landowning democracy, as he strove to create in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, he removed the stamp duty from certain transactions involving real property between close family members. To compensate for that, the stamp duty was increased by 4%. It used to be 3% from a buyer of real property, 3% from the seller of real property. That made 6% used to be the stamp duty on real estate transactions. When Sir James removed stamp duty from certain categories of family members, parents and children, brothers and sisters, husbands and wives, he increased the stamp duty for the general public from 3 and 3 to 5 and 5. That's a 2% increase from buyer, 2% increase from seller. And those percentages still hold. But having had to find what the Prime Minister called creative ways to raise revenues, the government has had to resort to, as I said before, increasing various charges at the registry. And these days, if you go to apply for a grant of letters of administration, you will find that it is considerably more than it used to be. So that this is what the title, the topic of this presentation means. Families ought to consider whether it would not be better to organize deeds of gift between parents and children while the parents are still alive, rather than wait until the parents are dead and have to go and apply for letters of administration or for grants of probate. So that in many cases, if a family analyzed their situation, the family may come to the conclusion that at the present levels of charges and taxation, it may well be better for parents to execute deeds of gift, giving interests in real property to their children, rather than wait and do it by will, which means that it can only be done after death. Because doing it by will is now considerably more expensive than it used to be a few months ago. Each family would have to decide for itself which is more advantageous, to do it now or to leave things to be sorted out after death. There are problems, of course, with parents parceling out their real estate holdings to children while they're alive. The parents may feel that some of their children may take unfair advantage of the situation. Some parents may feel, look, wait until they're dead. When they're dead and gone, all you do what all you want to do. Some fathers take that attitude. But increasingly, complications arise when property has to be distributed after death and wills have not been made. Now, it is a perfectly proper aspect of estate planning for parents to make wills, devising to their children that portion which they want to devise to them. So I'm not to be taken as suggesting that in every case, parents ought to dispose of their real estate holdings to their children while they are alive. But it is something that you really should think about and something that you should receive advice about. Well, seek advice about and receive advice to know where you stand in the light of the family's circumstances. And the circumstances of one family would be different, naturally, from the circumstances of another family. But I'm suggesting you shouldn't leave it to chance. Find out where your family stands. Find out what is more advantageous to your family in terms of what is known as estate planning. And notwithstanding that the charges associated with applications for probate and letters of administration have gone up, there is a lot of scope for them to go even higher. So don't think they have gone up and they have reached the limit. Far from it. But as long as stamp duty is still removed from deeds of gift between parents and children, it is advantageous in the present circumstances for parents to consider giving the children what they have now, rather than die and leave it to be sorted out by applications for letters of administration, and perhaps even more advantageous than even making a will. Now, I know some parents might feel that let the children wait, let them wait. Children can't quarrel, because if it's one thing you have to understand, what your parents have belongs to your parents, it's not yours. Your parents worked for it. You are not entitled to it as of right. Remember the parable of the prodigal son? Well, Jewish culture in those biblical days was that the eldest male child was entitled, in some cases, to the entire inheritance. And in the case of the parable of the prodigal son, which the Lord Jesus recited, this young man went to the father and said, look, I'm ready to take my departure. I want you to give me what is mine. And the father said, all right, if you want it. And the father gave him what was his. And he went and led a life of spree, nice time. Good book says he devoted himself to riotous living, had lots of friends, went places, spent the money, and then he became broke and ended up tending to pigs as the laborer of a house owner. And then caught himself and realized, look, my father has servants who are living better than me. So I will arise and go to my father and say unto him, Father, I have sinned. And he did and went back. And of course the father forgave him. And the son who was left at home, toiling conscientiously, became very annoyed when the father lavished the returning son, the prodigal son, with a party, showing a parental love. So in Jewish culture in those days, the children were entitled as of right to an inheritance from their parents. Not so nowadays. Let me make it clear, your parents don't have any obligation to leave anything for any particular child unless there is a legal arrangement. The parents may have depended on the child for an advantage, borrowed from the child, you never know. But if there is no legal necessity compelling a parent to leave something for a child, then that child cannot insist. So, it is up to your parents to decide what they do with their property. If it's one parent who is alive, it's up to that parent to decide what to do with his or her property. Unless you, the child, have a share, for example, if the mother had died, not leaving a will, then you, the child, would be entitled to a certain portion, and so on and so on. I've recited that time and time again. But unless you have a legal right to what your parents have, it's their property. So you can't go and harass them and insist that they give you or give a particular sibling this or that. So that when family discussions are held, if they're held at all, you have to hold it in the respectful atmosphere, that you can't force your parents to do what they don't want. You have to humble. But I'm suggesting, and as a final word in this program tonight, each family should look at its situation and decide what is the best course of action to do. You get legal advice, and hopefully you follow that advice. All right? All right, so that is all from this program of The Law and You, program number 883. I welcome my beloved daughter, Mrs. P.R Campbell QC, back to St. Vincent. She has come for the Rise and Blossom function on Saturday. Always pleasure to have Arusha at home. Welcome the rest of you who will be attending the function, and do hope that it will be a success. So until next Monday, DV, when I will bring you another presentation in this public service nation building series, The Law and You, here is hoping and praying that the good Lord will continue to bless us all.
The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.